Hey everybody, today I'm going to be pulling the front bumper off of the M2, and there's a number of reasons why you may want to do this, from just general upkeep and cleanliness, you know, getting out debris, leaves and whatnot from those lower grille areas, to what I want to do, which is actually I want to install some protective mesh behind those lower front grills. By installing behind the grills, I'm preserving the look of the car, instead of putting something out in front, and also because I want to install a very secure backing plate on the bumper for my new splitter. So, those things I'm going to cover in separate videos. So for this one, we'll just go about removing and installing the bumper. Now let's send the car up. Now we can go ahead and take our wheels off. So grab your 17mm and make sure you're applying some pressure on the bottom of the wheel when you do your last bolt so it doesn't come off. You can go ahead and take the wheel off. And once the car is in the air, then what we need to do is we need to remove the under trays over here. So, this front under tray, and on the M2, it's one single piece that goes all the way across the front of the car. On the M3 and M4, right, you have separate quarter front panels over here versus, the center main panel. So, to go ahead and undo those. And to do that, you're going to find a very high number of these 8mm screws. I've taken a couple of mine out already that are going to be along the underside, and then also some may be on the inside of the wheel well over here too. Additionally, on the M2s we have this E10 bolt, two of them, so one on each side of the kind of oil cooler down here that we also need to remove in order to pull out this lower shield. And once all those 8mm screws and the E10s have been released, well, we can go ahead and pull out this lower cover. Okay, now we're going to remove these two plastic push rivets. And so, we've got my fork trim tool, and you'll pull out this center stud till it's out far enough. Then you can use it to bend back the main flange and get your trim tool in there so that we can pop the rest of this guy out. In the hood area, the first thing we're going to want to do is remove this weather stripping, and it's just on a channel. It just pulls right up, and you can see it pulls right off. And that will reveal all of these T30 screws going across the top of the bumper, so we'll go ahead and remove all of those too. So on the sides here and in the center, you can see there are these little clips. This one is plastic because it goes into the headlight assembly, and you can see the bumper slots into there. So you want to slide the bumper out and over those clips. Okay, so we're going to need to take this upper wheel liner off in the front. And so you can see here there's a trio of 8mm screws that we have to remove. And as we look further down the fender, you can see there are two more over here that we can see to remove. And then looking further down that outside edge and inwards, we can see there are a couple more. Now we should be free to go ahead and grab the liner and pry it out. Next, looking from the front of the bumper, looking rearwards, you can see there are three more 8mm bolts that hold the bumper to the kind of frame assembly here. Next, you can see we have this plug mounted to the outer bumper part, so you'll have to remove this. There should be one on each side of the car, and at least for this one on the passenger or right side, you can see there's tabs on the top and bottom that you can pinch to depress and then pull that plug out towards you. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to peel back the bumper a little bit so I can get better access to this. Pinch that and pull it out. And then on the driver's or left side, you can see this one goes from the top, so you'll want to pull the bumper back so you can reach down from the top and undo this one. Now you can pull the bumper out of all its little clips. You may feel some resistance, so just give it a nice tug where you feel that, and we can take this thing off. Alright, now we're ready to put the bumper back on the car, but before we do, let's take a look at the bumper itself and kind of how it attaches. And the first thing I want to take a look at is this support here between the two kidneys. If this didn't move at all on you, you probably don't need to do anything on it, but this thing has like a ratchet mechanism, so you can see that I can pull this down, but there's these blocks right here that prevent this piece from going up. So you know, keep that in mind. If you need to get a little bit more support for the upper section of the bumper, you can go ahead and change how far down this thing sits. And then the next thing to note is this little clip right here. So you can see this you know, slides over and locks behind something. It's really like a kind of like a stiffened, almost like cardboard fiber type thing, kind of like the under tray material. But anyways, you know, this will slide over that and then kind of latch behind there. So when we put the bumper back on the car, we're going to, you know, align these latch points first, get those slid in to support the bottom of the bumper, and then that'll make the putting the upper part on a lot more easy. All right, so we are getting ready to put the bumper back on the car, and I just want to show you a couple indexing features first. So if you remember those clips on the back side of the bumper, well, this piece right here, this nice, you know, solid, rigid, you know, almost cardstock type piece, this is what that clip, you know, comes over, and you can kind of see the scrape marks here from when it got pulled off of the bumper. So that'll go over here, and then this piece helps support some of the weight of the bumper. So if you wanted to ever try and do some type of reinforcement in the future, maybe this, you know, bolt would be a good chassis mount point to add some stiffening material or extra bracing or something over here to give a hard point to the bumper. And then looking at the kidney grill area, we have this little support here. And you can see it's got this like rubber like strip around it. And so if you remember that like center ratcheting portion, that little platform that sticks in like this, that's what this guy rests on. So what we'll want to do is we'll want to make sure that that platform is resting on here once again. If it's not, you know, you can adjust the height of that, you know, support up and down with that ratchet mechanism on there. So just make sure that we have the bumper supported here as well. And then over on the fender side, we have the bracket on the back side of this that'll slide in, so you can see these like little tabs here. These will help index the fender to the bumper when you put it in, and then the bumper also has some protrusions that go into some of the indexing features on the fender as well, so we'll make sure those are all aligned. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take the bumper now. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of get this aligned and ready to slide on there. Go ahead and put it on best I can up top, just so it's supported and not going to fall off. Let me see if I can get these bottom clips on those posts first of all. Okay, so first what I'm doing is I'm just pulling the bumper up, and I'm just getting this top portion over the top of the engine bay, and that's just so the bumper stays in, you know, stays in position and hangs here while I can go ahead and connect the two side connectors, one on each side. So before we start bolting anything up top, we need to get the bottom of the bumper lined. So we're going to have to get, you know, this rigid part underneath this clip on the lower bumper, and then really, you know, this lower piece as it extends across the middle bumper. Sometimes this can sag down and block the bumper from going on. So make sure, you know, you just reach underneath and give it a push up so that it clears the center portion of the bumper. So now I'm going to go ahead and take this bumper part, lift it up and slide it over just so that that clip gets on top of this part here. Now I can try and go ahead and get this headlight and fender side up and into place. So I'm going to try and get that aligned. Bring this in, push it in. There we go. Just so it's roughly in place, and we can just, you know, push it together for that final hold. And I'll go ahead and do this on the other side as well. Now let's go ahead and take those 8mm bolts and connect the fender to the bumper, start screwing those together. And then these three 8mm bolts, they just need to be done hand tight because the torque spec is really low. It's only 3 Newton meters, or like 26.5 inch-pounds. So I'll go ahead and get the connector on the right side first. Make sure that's nice and secure. And then we'll go ahead and get this connector over on the left side. Remember, this one goes from the top. So I'm going to go ahead and get that. Make sure you heard that click. Now with the bottom secure, let's go ahead and work on the top. On the end, don't forget to slide the top bumper underneath this tab on the headlight. And then going along the top of the bumper, we have these areas where there are these clips right here. So we need to make sure that the bumper top slides underneath those clips. And there's another pair of this stuff over on the other side. Next, we can go ahead and take the T30 screws that go into here and tighten them down. And one thing we'll want to do is, you can see the indentation where the screw used to be. So try your best to get the bumper in that exact same location, such that the washer goes right into that indentation, because that will align your body line. So this line of the bumper, how it creates the gap between the hood when it's closed. Being able to re-index this at the exact same point will help keep that gap consistent. So I am just putting these bolts in by hand to start, just so I can make sure that they're aligned, indexed how I need them to be before I finally torque them to spec. Now that this upper bumper area has been put into place, and we've just lightly hand fastened the screws here, let's go ahead and just close the hood so that we can verify that the gap is what we want. And yeah, that looks nice and even the whole way across. Now that we've verified our bumper to hood fitment, let's go ahead and torque these T30 screws down, and these will get torqued to 4.6 Newton meters or 41 inch-pounds. Next, we'll go ahead and put the weather stripping back on, and just remember, right, if you look at it, there's this channel, and that just pops along the ridge right here going across the bumper. So I'm going to start at one side, make sure I have an even amount of this channel, because it's really easy to start it at one side, get to the other, and end up short. So you don't want to have to try and slide it back and forth after the fact. So just get it well aligned from the beginning, and then we'll go ahead and start popping it down. And to push this down, you're going to make kind of like a rocking motion as you work your way across, because you can push it over the channel, but you might not get it to lock in. And you can hear these little snaps as I'm making sure that this is locking in to the ridge. Okay, now we're going to put the wheel well liner back in, and so I'm going to go ahead and get this in here. And on the inside edge, make sure this gets around the brake hard line. Do that. And on the outside edge, we need to bend this because there's a little tab right here, a little protrusion. We have to get this behind. So let me go ahead and get that over here. There we go. So here's that little nub that you have to get it around. Then we'll just kind of push it up on all the areas, make sure it's flush, make sure the brake duct is protruding through on the inside. Next, we'll go ahead and take a bunch of these, 8mm screws, and we'll go ahead and put these into their holes. And I'm not going to tighten them down fully right away, just because I want to get it aligned. If you look closely, you can see the indentation or the marks where the edge of the washer used to be. And so, it's not absolutely critical to line it up, but I always like to line it up just a little bit, just so I kind of have the wheel well where it was before. And then all of these just need to be hand tight. They're really low torque. And then the last panel we'll do is this under tray, and so to do this we have to tilt it up so that the leading edge slots in above the bumper. So make sure that's doing that all the way across. And then we can go ahead and rock the rear edge up. Then we can go ahead and put in the millions of 8mm screws that secure the bottom panel to the upper bumper. Don't forget your two E10 bolts that go in kind of this middle section. Once again, these just have to be hand tight. And then we have the two plastic push rivets that go on each side. And there it is, our bumper's back on again. Now we can go ahead and put our wheels on. And remember, just apply a little pressure on the bottom so that the wheel doesn't want to slide off. And then we can go ahead and put our wheel bolts in, 17mm, and we'll do so in a star pattern. Alright, with the wheel on, you can go ahead and lower the car, or if you're just working on one corner, go ahead and lower just that corner of it. And then lastly, don't forget to torque your wheel bolts to 140 Newton meters or 104 foot-pounds in a star pattern.